This is Vidya with Verity, and I'm Verity Coonan, breathwork facilitator and founder of Vidya Breathwork, and someone who has, for over a decade, sat with people in the realest, rawest moments of their lives. This show is for the ones who are ready to go all the way into the real story, the real body, the real work. Raw conversations, honest truth, and the tools that actually create change. Let's go. Welcome to Vidya, the podcast. Let's take a breath, because this is what it's all about. Close your eyes or keep them soft, or just make it conscious wherever you are. Take a big inhale through the nose, fill the belly, and sigh it out. Let it all go. Welcome. The most ambitious thing you can do right now is feel safe. How did that land in your body? I know how that sounds. I know that for some of you, the word safe can bring up something that's uncomfortable in the body. Like it's a word for people who've given up, who've settled, who aren't willing to push themselves. Or perhaps it's something you've never had. But I want to talk to you about what actually happens in your body and in your business, your relationships, your creativity when you are chronically operating from a place of threat. Because most of us are. Whether we want to admit that or not, because we still have blind spots. Most of us have been running hot for so long, we don't even know what our baseline feels like anymore. And the thing is, you cannot create from that place, not the way you actually want to, not with the depth that you are capable of. Welcome to Vidya with Verity. I'm Verity Coonan, the founder of Vidya Breathwork, and this is the season we're calling the foundations. And today we're going to start where everything starts, and that is with safety. Before I get into it, I want to tell you what this season is, because I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been thinking about a lot what this show is for, and more specifically, what order things need to go in for any of it to actually stick. Because I have these conversations so often, and as humans, we love to overcomplicate things. When in actual fact, your breath and keeping this so simple is the best thing you can do. I've been a breathwork facilitator now for over a decade. Isn't that wild? And so I've sat with hundreds and thousands of people in deep states, in grief, in rage, in a kind of terror that only finds you when you stop running. And what I've learned over and over and over is that the work doesn't start with the catharsis, the huge breakthroughs. It doesn't start with the release. It starts with safety, not just feeling safe in a room, not just trusting the facilitator. I mean safety in the body, safety on your nervous system. The felt sense of I am not under any threat right now. And most of us, especially in the high achieving, relentlessly driven, emotionally intelligent humans who find their way to this show, most of us have never actually lived there. We visited, but we don't live there. So that's what this season is about. Not because it's easy, but because it's the thing that everything else is built on. Let's get something out of the way first. Safety does not mean comfortable. Safety does not mean calm. Safety does not mean you've stopped caring or stopped wanting or stopping or pushing. The version of safe that most driven people reject is the version that makes them still, being passive, taking your foot off the gas. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what your nervous system is talking about either. What I mean by safety and what the science means by it is that your body is not in a threat response. It is not scanning for danger. It's not running from old survival programming in the background, eating up your processing power, distorting your perception of what's actually happening, or pulling you back into your patterns that served you at 7 years of age or 16 years of age, but are actively working against you now. That's not what we're after, not passively, just clarity, which is what Vidya stands for. Here's what happens when your nervous system reads threat. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes danger, goes online. It lights up. And when it does, It pulls resources away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for nuanced thinking, long-term planning, empathy, creativity, and making really good decisions. Your body redirects all the blood flow to your muscles. Your stress hormones spike, cortisol rises, your perception narrows. You can only see perhaps one way because when you're being chased, you don't need to see the whole picture. You need to see the exit. So it means your blood is going to your biceps, your thighs, because you are ready to bolt. Now, here's the problem. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a tiger and a difficult conversation with a client. It doesn't know the difference between actual physical danger and the feeling of being behind on your life plan or your goals. It doesn't know the difference between surviving and striving. So if you grew up in an environment where you had to be on guard, emotionally, physically, rationally, your system learned to stay in a state of low-grade vigilance. And now, as an adult, you are probably doing incredible things in this world while running a survival program in the background. It's running quietly, consistently, and over time it starts to cost you. Costing you in focus, costing you in creativity, costing you in the ability to receive money, love, recognition, in the ability to rest without guilt, in the ability to trust your own perception. I used to think I was just wired with this anxiety, this hypervigilance, this drive that tripped over into compulsion. That was just my personality. That was what it looked like to be serious about what you do. It meant you cared, my brain. It wasn't. It was a nervous system that had never learnt that it was safe to slow down. Here's the paradox that took me years to embody, not just to understand intellectually. Everything you are chasing, the business, the relationship, the creativity work, the impact, all of it requires a nervous system that can access its full capacity. And a nervous system under threat cannot do that, not fully, not sustainably. So there would be bursts where it would work. And then my old patterns, perceived threat, would creep back in. So when you're dysregulated, you make decisions from scarcity. You overgive because saying no feels dangerous for your body. You undercharge because visibility feels like a threat. You work yourself into the ground because stopping feels like you're falling behind. You work to keep busy because it's something exciting to focus on because perhaps the other areas of your life don't feel exciting. A little avoid tactic. You attract relationships that confirm your oldest story about yourself because your nervous system is pattern matching, not actually choosing, regulated. You think differently. You see options that weren't visible to you before. You can tolerate the discomfort of asking what you actually want. You can stay in difficult conversations without shutting down or blowing up, and you can build something without destroying yourself or your soul in the process. Safety is not the opposite of ambition. Safety is what ambition actually runs on. And there's going to be moments in time. Recently, I was on the floor, and after being in this work for 11 years, more with yoga, coaching, and holding rooms for hundreds and thousands of people through the most terrifying moments of their lives, I still have moments on the floor, frozen, because I have emotions. But in these moments, sometimes our dorsal vagal shutdown is real. That's a dorsal vagal shutdown. And it happens sometimes because life happens. So for those of you that know the polyvagal terminology, it's the oldest survival response in the body. When a threat feels inescapable, when fight or flight mode is not even an option, the nervous system goes into full collapse, freeze, conservation mode. It's protecting you. I knew it was happening and I couldn't name it at the time and I couldn't get up. So what brought me back was just a few belly breaths. And this has happened multiple times in my life. A lot has happened in life. And it's just a short moment in time. But over the years, this is now just down to one breath sometimes. Whereas previously it may have been hours or weeks. So if we're ever looking about how far you've come in your journey, because life is always going to lie, it's nice to be able to look back and see the time frame, the gaps of where you've grown. Because when it used to be 2 weeks, it's now 2 minutes. And it's nice to have something to follow. So I put on a guided breath, which is in my Vidya app, because sometimes it's nice to have something to follow, just to have a thread back to my body. Because when you're in dorsal shutdown, you feel out of your body, and we want to get back into our body to let it clear. This practice went on to become the most used practice in the Vidya app. I tell you all this never to feel sorry for me. I tell you this because I want you to understand safety is not a concept I am presenting to you from a place of having figured it all out. It's the thing that I had to fight for, the thing I had to build in my body slowly, because it was a body that spent a lot of time in this world believing that the world was not safe. I had so much evidence of it not being safe. And the irony is the moment that I stopped pushing my way through it, because years ago, healing was something that I wanted to happen fast, not very patient. I had to learn to be, because safety doesn't like push force. And so the moment I stopped that and just started building actual safety, small increments daily, everything changed. And not in a linear, tidy, perfect way, in the real way, which just looks like a little scribble. Practically for you, what does it look like? What does it actually look like in real time? What does it mean to build a nervous system with safety in your daily life? Not as a retreat that you go on once a year, not as a big breathwork workshop you experience, but as a practice. 3 things I want to offer you. First, notice before you intervene. Before you try to regulate, you have to know what dysregulation feels like in your body. You become aware of the difference, not the thought, I'm stressed, the sensation that arises in your body. And it's different for everybody. Perhaps it might look like feeling a tight chest, shallow breath, your jaws are clenching, your stomach drops. You can feel it in your gut. Your shoulders are up around your ears. Start with noticing all of these sensations. That alone is a practice, because most of us bypass the body completely. We go straight to the story, the solution, the fix. Second, let safety be small. You don't need a 2-hour practice to begin your nervous system journey. You need 3 minutes. A walk without your phone, a meal you actually sit down and taste, eye contact that doesn't feel like performance, a breath that goes all the way to your belly. Safety is built in micro moments, not in massive interventions. The wildest thing to me when I started teaching and facilitating breath work, because I was excited at the start and I wanted everyone to experience these big, beautiful releases. And yet I was teaching belly breath. I still do to this day as the most important breath, because breathing down to your lower belly is often something that many do not do. The third thing is I want you to audit your own baseline for now. Remember, your baseline is something that we can shift, but we need to know what it is now. So for 1 week, at 3 different points in the day, ask yourself, where am I right now? On a scale of regulated to dysregulated, and do this without judgment, only compassion. just naming it. Morning, afternoon, before sleep. What you find will tell you a lot about where your system has set its default. A beautiful practice is when you wake up first thing in the morning. I always know if I've got cortisol cruising through my body. I'll wake up with a big breath, like I've gasped myself awake. And that's often if I'm waking up super early. And depending on your day, because once you understand what's happening in your body, you work with it, not against it. Sometimes it's really good to go out and straight away outside, go for a walk. Sometimes it's more beneficial to lay in your bed and belly breathe. This whole process, it becomes exciting for your body when you understand what is happening and why. And if you want a place to start with breath specifically, the Vidya app has the 3-minute belly breath practice. The one that I recorded on the floor. It's the simplest thing and it works. We're going to spend this season really building this foundation. And I mean building it, not just talking about it. Each episode is going to give you something you could actually feel, use, and experience. Next week, I want to get into what chronic vigilance actually looks like in high performers, because I think a lot of you guys listening to this don't identify as anxious. You probably identify as driven. And there's a version of drive that is deeply rooted in a nervous system that never learned it was safe to stop. And I'm not going to mess up the way you run your business or the way you live life. It's just going to feel a lot lighter and a lot easier. If this landed for you today, share it. But because I genuinely believe there is someone in your life who needs to hear that safety is not weakness, that building it is not giving up, that it might be the most courageous thing that they do this year. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next week. That's it for this week. If something landed for you, please share it with someone who's genuinely ready to hear this. And I would love if you have 2 minutes to leave us a review on wherever you listen to your podcast, because this genuinely helps people find us. You can find me on Instagram at Verity Coonan. And if you're interested in becoming a breathwork facilitator or joining the Vidya app, I'll link it all in the show notes. See you soon.